All right, I'm gonna get it started. Hey, everybody, it's after 7 o'clock, and I just want to say welcome to our October work session. We actually have a fairly easy agenda tonight, so I think we're going to get through it quickly. But I do understand we have one item for executive session, so let's be prepared for that when we get to the end. I'm going to go ahead and start. We have no awards or presentations or old business from Monday, but we have several new business items, and so I'll start with item number 1, Mr. Anderson, Riverlands Authority appointment.
Thank you, Mayor. As you may know, Sam Piovison, who was serving on the Riverlands Authority, had to resign as a result of her qualification to run for City Council. Therefore, we have a vacancy on the Riverlands Authority. I will circulate my nominee for the Riverlands Authority. Her name is Amy Morton. She is the former cross-country coach for North Gwinnett High School, and I will forward her biography. She has a ton of experience on soft trails and trail building and that sort of thing, so she will be an excellent candidate for your consideration next Monday. She's been a longtime resident of the city and has a lot of outdoor experience. So anyway, I will get that information to you all this week. I apologize I didn't get to you over the weekend. I was traveling, so didn't have a chance to get it out to everybody. So that's all I've got.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next, we'll move on to item number 2, and that deals with workers' compensation for our reserve marshals. Ms. Whittington.
Thank you, Mayor. In doing some research on whether our reserve or volunteer marshals were covered under our workers' comp policy, we found out that they were not. It requires a resolution of the mayor and council approving it that we will send to GMA and add that to our policy. There were several different, if you had firefighters or volunteer organizations of that type, but we just want to add the law enforcement officers, our volunteer marshals, so there is some protection while they're out there on the road.
Thank you, Ms. Whittington. I think the cost is minimal per year. It's just like a little over
It's a minimal charge to add them yearly. So.
And just as a reminder, reserve marshals, they actually volunteered their services for us, and so they are putting their lives in danger for no compensation. And so if we can do just this little bit to help, if they were to be injured while working for us, it'd be a great thing. So, any questions of Ms. Whittington? All right, no questions. Next we'll move on to item number 3, that is landfill expense reimbursement. Mr. Besesh.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that you may recognize from previous agendas over the years. The city's Appling Road landfill was closed in 1999. There is a state-issued permit that required us to continue monitoring and measuring its decomposition over the years. So we do groundwater monitoring, we do methane monitoring, and we do some cleanup around the site. We've been monitoring those conditions since the closure. A portion of those expenses associated with that post-closure period qualify for reimbursement under a state program that recognizes eligible expenses for this type of work. We have identified some $13,676.78 of eligible expenses. In order to obtain that reimbursement, we need to approve a resolution and an agreement outlining the terms of that reimbursement. This is very similar to what it's been over the last 10 years or so, but that is the document that makes it effective. Once we have this approved and sent back to the state, then we send them the documentation that is associated with these types of expenses. They cut us a check for the sum of $13,000 and some change. Not a lot of money, but it does offset some of our expenses. I think we have an annual budget on landfill expenses of about $45,000 to $50,000, somewhere in that range. So a good 20% of that is offset by this program.
All right, thank you, Mr. Besesh. Any questions? All right, next we'll move on to item number 4 that deals with the Plan First designation. Mr. Radford.
Thank you, Mayor. Recently, Sugar Hill was designated a Plan First community by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. This distinction is awarded annually to only a select number of communities, and we're fortunate to be one of them. It recognizes our commitment to and excellence in comprehensive planning and successful implementation of the Envision 100 comprehensive plan. I want to say this designation is a team effort, recognizing the contributions of staff from almost every department of the city. Of note is the leadership of Logan Witter and Nicole Klein. Their work leading this effort just exemplifies the high standards we have for our staff that strive for public service, excellent public service and urban planning. With this designation comes a number of benefits to the city and potentially investors in the city. First is the recognition statewide as a Plan First community. There's an interest rate reduction of 100 basis points, which is 1% for approved loans to businesses through DCA's Employment Incentive Program. There's an interest rate reduction of 1% for approved loans through DCA's Redevelopment Fund, and a similar 100 basis for approved loans through DCA's Downtown Development Revolving Loan Program. We have not taken advantage of any of these yet, but there could be businesses that locate downtown, for example, that can get a low interest rate subordinated loan from DCA and potentially equally from GMA in their revolving loan program. And then annually, free attendance at any Community Planning Institute event for 2 representatives of our community. And lastly, an interest rate reduction of 50 basis points or 0.5% for approved Georgia Environmental Facilities Authority loans. We don't run a water and sewer system, but recently added as an eligible activity is natural gas systems, so that potentially could be useful for us in the long term. A representative from DCA will be here next Monday to present our designation, and what we're asking for you is to, you'll have a memorandum of understanding that has been reviewed by the City Attorney Hartley that finds no problem with it, and authorize the mayor to sign the MOU. And so that concludes that report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radford. Any questions about this item? All right, thank you. All right, next we'll move on to discussion items. Mr. Perkle, you've got an item tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. I think most of the council is aware of an incident that occurred in the city at a new development that was having to do some blasting. And when they did so, there was damage incurred by the neighbors from the fallout of the blast. Not something that we've typically seen in the past or that I recall. I did receive a couple of calls about it before the damage was known, but just due to the noise and the shaking. And I contacted the assistant city manager and asked him to check into it, and he did. He went out there and found the damage and did some follow-up on it. And part of the information he relayed was that he doesn't think this is covered by a particular city ordinance. And correct me if I misstate anything, but also that the county does not have a particular ordinance regulating it, that perhaps they did in the past, but it was removed for whatever reason, and that currently this falls under the jurisdiction of the state fire marshal, who Mr. Basesh contacted and came out on site. And I don't know if they issued any penalties or fines, anything, but they did present some findings about it. So what I'd like us to do is have the city attorney look into and see what, if any, abilities we have. If everything's controlled by the state and it's out of our hands, then it's out of our hands. But determine maybe why the county removed their ordinance, and what, if any, abilities we have to regulate this within the city for particular reasons. One, to perhaps regulate the hours of the blast and the notice that would be required to adjacent property owners that blasting was going to occur. Perhaps due to the duration of the blasting. I think I saw something that said they intend to blast, or at least reserve the right to blast for up to 30 days. That seems pretty excessive there. And I think we're going to see these sort of things more in the future because, as you know, most of our land is already built, so the land that was easy to build on has been built first. Right, and so what's left is probably more challenging due to hills or potentially rock or whatever. So I think there's a potential that we might see this happen more frequently in the future. I'd just like to get out in front of it and see what ability we have to regulate it and what we should do to regulate it. So really, all I want to do is have the council direct the city attorney to investigate it and bring us back some options.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Perkle. Any questions, Mr. Perkle? Ms. Avery?
Not really a question, but just to a backup, I talked to some of the residents of the neighborhood bordering the development, especially about the letter that they received that starting today, they would be blasting possibly for the next 30 days. As you said, that seemed excessive. And the hours of the blasting would be from 2 to 5. And I'm glad you mentioned looking at the hours, because to me, 2 to 5, the neighborhood bordering this particular development has many families there. And that's when kids are home from school. I think maybe a time that when the kids are in school might have made a little bit more sense, especially for 30 days. So I certainly just want to say I agree with having our attorney looking into what we as a city can do to protect residents who's having a development built in their backyards. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Any other questions or comments? All right, what's the direction of council? I would assume we would all be in favor of that, so. Mr. Hartley, good? Thank you, Mr. Perkle. All right, next we'll move on to city manager discussions and updates.
The training and education report should be on your desk, but if it's like the one in front of me, it did not include the, you do have that one, so that is what you've asked us to provide on a monthly basis. Once again, I thank all of our staff for communicating that to Victoria, and for Victoria assembling it for your edification. I have also received, we have received, and I have approved the acceptance of annexation petitions. One for property on Highway 20. It's 0.996 of acres, right between Jake's Automotive Repair and where the Fifth Third Bank is being built, for Rocket Brew, which would be a drive-through coffee establishment. We have done all the notifications with the Gwinnett County Board of Commissioners, as well as the Board of Education, and the city received notice from the county on September 23rd that they had no objections to the annexation. It is being done through the 100% method. Right now, under Gwinnett County, it is zoned R100. It is in the applicant, they're requesting to rezone to general business, which is basically what the condition is, from the Swanee Dam, Highway 20 intersect, all the way down to the where the self-storage is. Secondly, we've received an application for property on Swanee Dam Road of 10.16 acres, which is, it borders right across from Barrington and borders Laurel Springs as well. It is currently zoned, I think, RS 100 in Gwinnett County. The applicant is requesting to annex it and rezone it to R100 Conservation Subdivision for a 34-unit subdivision. Once again, this is under the 100% method, and Gwinnett County has no objection to the annexation. So they will now go to the Planning Commission. We have done the public notice of the in the Daily Post on 9/14, and we'll list it again on 10/12 for that one, and the same dates for the previous one. So it'll come to the council after that. We are also continuing to deal with Appalachian Mountain Services for, which is a tax collection specialist, to deal with delinquent property taxes, and we were looking to engage them to help us do that. They work for Duluth and Lawrenceville, and I think Suwanee as well, and maybe one or two other cities. They also do the same thing for Gwinnett County. So it would be minimal cost to the city, but it would help us deal with the number of delinquent property taxes we have out there. And so we will give you an update once we have come to an agreement with Appalachian Services. Now, if any questions about that, I'd be glad to answer them. But then I want to call on Troy, but before I do, I want to just mention about public safety. We do now have 12 reserve officers, which I think is indicative of the leadership we have in our public safety department. And I'm really pleased with some of the new services they're providing. I took advantage of applying online for our vacation watch service, and I have a Ring cameras all around my house. And when I was out of the country the last week or so, my phone would ping, and I could see the officer at nighttime with a flashlight going to the front door, checking windows, going around down the stairs behind my house and checking doors. And they noticed that I had one of my windows in the basement had a latch that was broken or not closed, and that was something that I got taken care of. But I do appreciate them pointing that out, and that's a service that's available to anybody in the city that will be on vacation. It's a simple process, and our officers will be there to look at it a couple times a day. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Troy to give you an update on Ridge Lake Park, on the Greenway Bridge that you can see progress on, Transco, as well, sidewalks on PIB, and the work that will begin soon on the Sugar Hill Historic Cemetery, and then also a proposal on fleet management in our Public Safety Department. So, Troy?
Thank you, Mr. Radford. As Paul mentioned, the Greenway Bridge project is well underway. Williams is the largest subcontractor for OMSHIV that has mobilized in the month of August, completed the foundation work for all of the bents on the south side of Highway 20, built out the support structures, and are now waiting on some masonry deliveries and also segmented retaining wall structures to come in before they can resume operations on the south side of 20. And that will take the bridge from its crossing over 20 all the way down to the driveway at the back of the E-Center. So we're still waiting on a few other utilities to wrap up operations before they can relocate the crane to the north side of 20. AT&T is one of our favorite utility providers, but they are pretty slow. They give the railroad a run for their money, and so we're waiting on them to give us some indication of when they plan to mobilize and relocate. That should be the last one before Georgia Power can take down the poles, and then we can begin work on the north side of 20. As Mr. Radford mentioned, the Transco project is nearing its finish line. Baywater is the contractor for that Williams Transco operator. They are waiting to tie in the high and low pressure sides of this new meter skid that should happen this week. The bypass meter was set up about a month ago, so gas continues to flow in and around the work area, but we do expect the commissioning process to get started this week. So we should see gas flowing through our new meter probably in the next week to 10 days. So that will conclude that very significant investment in the gas system for Sugar Hill. We gave Hasbun, the city's contractor on the cemetery fence project, notice to proceed in September. They've ordered materials and have laid out the area where they will begin working on the block and brick columns that will match the rest of the fence that is already in place. That is expected to get started in the month of October. and that will wrap up in November. And with that, I want to mention one other project and ask Andy McQuaig, our Parks and Recreation Director, to join us at the podium while I pull up the presentation for that important project, which was awarded last month by the council. I'll get this connected so we can run through a number of options that we've asked Playground Creations to provide based on the input during the discussion at the last meeting. So I'll kind of step you through where we're at. The award dollar amount was $289,000, rough numbers. And so I'll tell you about the pricing structures with each of these options as we go through them. And I'll ask Andy to tell you a little bit more about the types of play equipment that is represented in the presentation. There are a couple of videos that I'll show you. So it's a little tedious, but it gives you a 360-degree view of the play equipment that was in the base contract and show you a little bit what's involved in it. So the missed the presentation opening slide, but that's okay. This is the option one that they came back with, and this was meant to be responsive to providing maybe a larger play area with some additional equipment and show what we talked about during the last time, which is the fall areas. So just to give you an idea of what you see on the screen, the red dashed lines are those areas that are meant to be clear for the play, and I'm going to actually turn it over to Andy to step you through the rest of it, so sorry.
The red line Troy's talking about is considered what is called a play zone. Each apparatus, depending on size and or elevation off or on the ground, determines how much zone there is for each apparatus. So as we talked last month about the first proposal we put in, thought it wasn't possibly as much as we wanted with some or other things. When I made the mention of you can't just go and add something in, this is why, right? So you would have to replace or expand depending on those apparatus you put in. So that's what you would be looking at on the red line of a play zone.
And go ahead and explain the blue.
I'm gonna look at. So the blue lines that you see, we went away from the mulch that was in the first one last month, as discussed, and went to the pour-in-place type of apparatus, similar to what is at Burkle Park now, and under the playground there. The blue is just a color design that kind of creates a little river throughout all the different apparatuses of the playground itself. So it's more of a design feature than anything else. Doesn't necessarily add cost. It's just a different color, and we thought a little river kind of going through it, leading it kind of down to the pond would be a cool look.
And this one is obviously rectangular in shape. Does include 3 shade structures in addition to the play equipment, and I want to show you some images of the play equipment before we get too far away from this. There is a seat wall that we've asked them to at least show on the plan. They don't really specialize in that, so that would be a masonry contractor that we would hire to construct that. Not responding, so now is a good time.
So a question about the Blue River thing. I think kids are going to want to follow that, and it goes right through multiple zones of the swings and that sort of thing. It just seems like we're inviting them to go into the zones we're trying to keep them out of.
Yeah, so this is, Troy, tell me I'm wrong or right. This is the original we brought to you last month, right? And then all we did was change the mulch, add some shade structures, add the concrete sitting wall, and then the pour-in-place structure, it's designed, or it looks to be designed exactly how you said it. You have very valid points. Not necessarily meaning that could be the finished product, but I understand what you were saying on that. So,
Yeah, I'm not opposed to a river design. Maybe it needs to be slightly bigger or whatever, but it just seems like we're drawing them into the wrong areas.
understand.
These are the examples, these are in, I think, all of the options that we're going to show you today. There is a treetop structure like the one on the left image. Has a little bit of shade built into it, but only in direct sunlight right overhead. And we'll look at an animation here in a moment of both of these. Sprig is on the right. Obviously, the age ranges are shown with it.
You can even hear kids playing on it. You really listen.
And Andy, you can describe the wheelchair access and accessibility.
On those particular ones, the wheelchair access and/or accessibility access is to get you onto the play surface itself. There aren't ramps, so they're not going to be able to take the wheelchair all the way up to the top, but the lowest level is only 18 inches off the ground to get you onto the first platform, if you can proceed from there. There are lower level elements throughout the whole playground on both the 2 to 5-year-olds and the 5 to 12-year-old playgrounds, along with all the other ground elements. But the surface allows sidewalk access all the way from the parking lot down to the playground, into the playground surface itself, and then, of course, all throughout the playground as well.
And this is the sprig.
5-year-old little kid.
Again, it provides shade right over the structure. So these two elements were in the original base contract. And then here are some other elements that are currently in the design. Log roll, seat spinners, the swings, the log steppers, a log crawl, balance beam, acorn seat, and then we do have some benches that Playground Creations recommended. And this could be in addition to or in lieu of a masonry seat wall. And these are the shade structures. They're cantilevered over seating area in at least 2 or 3 of the locations around the playground. Here's where we got a little creative and tried to add some elements, and Andy, you might have to help me find the new item, but I think it's the boulder structure right in the middle.
So this was taking ideas again from last month from Mayor and Council, adding some apparatuses. So as you can tell, this one still kind of stays at a rectangular style look. Wall is still in this option. It does, I think every option from this point forward is gone to the pour-in-place rubber surface and away from the mulch, so just keep that in mind every time you see. The addition that was asked that maybe we didn't have enough in this, again, play space comes into play. Push the swings out and give them kind of their own defined play area. Then we were able to add in, which we do have some pictures of, The boulder area, you'll see two kind of boulder areas in the middle. There you go, thanks, Troy. And then that's a rope crossing in between the two. So both boulders are climbable, a rope to get through them, another type of natural-looking apparatus on the playground that added another feature that was requested last month.
On option one. Option one, we've got some pricing back on that. So I remember the original award amount was 289. Option one is 328. And option two is 423,000. Here's a color computerized rendering of what that might look like. I'll ask you to forgive me on orientation. We can rotate, we can flip vertically to put the structures and shade and seat wall on the right corner and location relative to the lake. Thoughts, questions on the boulders?
I'll just say I like option two better. I don't mind option one, but if we go with option one, I would get rid of the river being in front of the swing set. That's one of the things I particularly like about this is that the river's not near the swing set, and then the boulder thing is just an extra. And so I'm fine either way.
But there's more. No, there is, sorry.
I've got a couple just comments, if you don't mind. Masonry walls make me nervous at playgrounds because it's a really easy way for kids to bust their heads open. And so just worried about that. I don't know if there's a way to use a softer material, provide some seating that's not masonry in nature. Also just want to kind of keep the original vision of the surrounding neighborhoods for this park. They wanted it to be more passive in nature, and kids can be loud, not opposed to having a playground, because I think we need to have many, many more playgrounds in our community. But if we could just think about like the size of the playground and how that might impact the noise, just something to, again, pay attention. We did a lot of community input on Ridge Lake Park and came up with the design, but based on community input. Just want to make sure we keep our original commitment there. Thank you.
Option three keeps a more organic shape for the playground area. So this is more kidney bean shaped. As far as play equipment is concerned, I think it sticks with the original type of play equipment, just shaped a little bit differently and fit into an area that is in kidney bean shaped. The square footage looks like it's about 5,000 or just under 5,000 square feet. So it's kind of in the range of our original budget for the area. So this does reduce the cost down to $353,000. Includes a shade structure and some seating on the side closest to the pond. So this seating could be playground creations type of seat orientation. Doesn't have to be masonry. And they may have an image coming up here of what that looks like. Not in this one, but in an upcoming one. So this is the shape and the overall layout for option three. The no boulders. Shade sail design, this one includes a beefier cantilevered shade structure, so you can put more shade, more seating areas under it, a little bit like what you see in the image here. Go back to that for a moment. This is option three, is as close to our original area that we were talking about, just with some additional shade provided. And this one was about $353,000.
All
one more option.
Get it.
This might be the Cadillac of the options, which is a little bit bigger, so 6,500 square feet. Does include the boulder crawl area, the sprig, treetops, a new feature that Andy really likes, and then the serpentine seating, bench seating over to the side. What else did it have?
With shade over the top.
With shade over the seating area.
Right. I don't know if you guys can see that image where you're at, right? So where Troy was up at the top, where that's where maybe the concrete bench would have been. This option has those pillars that look like they would be concrete type pillars with benches throughout the middle of them. Create as long or as wide as you want. And we thought that was a little bit softer feel than the concrete wall itself, but kind of gave the same idea or look. The idea of that side of the playground, if you're looking at it, would be the pond side of the playground, so it kind of gives a little bit of a barrier to if anybody's trying to run out where the parents might be or may not be sitting, and also giving that extra shade over that itself. You'll see another bench, two of them on the other side. Those are the same style, lengthened benches, just separated apart from each other. One has a shade structure, one does not. The one that does not is just because of the vicinity next to the playground apparatus. The shade sail itself wouldn't fit kind of in that area. But it does provide another bench for that section. Oh, there's a picture of the bench there.
And then describe this unique structure here, Andy.
Yeah, that's an old school
Merry-go-round?
merry-go-round that we used to be on. Now it's a climbing merry-go-round. You can climb outside, inside. The cool feature about it, and you can spin it, but you cannot spin it as fast as what we did. So there's an actual governor on this apparatus to where it can only go so fast. And so it's not like when we were growing up where you're going to try to throw somebody off of that. It does not spin that fast, but it does spin. It kind of gives a little bit of everything in one play, too. You got spin, you got fuel, you got net, you got pull, you got climb. It really is a cool feature that, added features were recommended. I really like that one.
These are some other additional play items. I'm not really sure how they work.
The tree stump transfer, again, just a transfer station. I think that's literally just for look, but it is a transfer station that's low to the ground. If you can get there and you can get up, great. That's not necessary. I mean, it's just a look. The other two could be very cool. Sensory level, ground, music for sensory children who may like the music part. Even the dino eggs are something that's on ground level that can be played with, looked at, studied as, educational style pieces. But those are some of your inclusive style pieces that you'll see at some other places. Those are options. Don't believe we have any of those in right now. But those are different options that we could still put in. Those come with no play zone, by the way, just for context, right? So low to the ground, there's nothing that they can do. So those can be added.
And then here were the three different variations of shade structures: the cantilevered hip roof, larger sail, cantilevered pyramid, and whatever shape this is, hyperbola. Is that what it is? Hyperbola. Thank you. I needed someone staring me down to remember the word. So just rough numbers. We started at $289,000. We have a top end of $487,000, which was the last one we looked at. So one thing I would like to suggest is the budget for this year was $300,000. We've spent some money on some design work and some other items at the park. I would like to probably span budget years with this project, and I think that gives us some flexibility to look at other things like maybe more robust shade structures, plant material, trees that provide shade in addition to the shade structures, and what type of seating we're talking about. The contract with Playground Creations, they need some direction to order the equipment to make sure it's here in time. But if it extends into 2026, I will just include this as part of next year's program at the park. So I think there's some flexibility there. We've got a parking lot to expand eventually. We've got a pavilion and a fishing pier to work on. But I think there's some room in those numbers, especially if we do some of that in-house. I don't want to put words in Andy's mouth, but I think we would recommend the larger place design that we finished.
All right, is that okay direction from council? Yes, Gary?
The only issue I saw with 4 is the same as 1, the river going in the swing zone. Outside of that, I'm fine with any of them.
That can definitely be a construction thing that we can work with them on, make sure.
All right, any other comments, questions? All right, thank you, Troy. Yes, Meg, sorry?
Just a second. So which option did you say that you're leaning toward?
That one right
Option
there.
4, the one is on the screen right now.
All right, I think you've got direction, so let's go. Let's move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy, for staying here tonight.
Okay, the other item that we wanted to talk about tonight relates to our fleet operations, and we've been kicking around a number of solutions that really address maybe a problem that we've not experienced recently, but not relying too heavily on SPLOST for vehicle purchases, for pay-as-you-go strategies, for replacing large fleets at one time. So we did look at providing a new way to approach that. We have been in discussions with a company that does provide that service, in addition to providing some consolidated data management for us in terms of how we maintain, how frequently we turn over vehicles, the appropriate mileage to get the best resale value on those vehicles, everything from kind of, we have a couple of different places where we collect fleet data. So consolidating that into one system makes some sense for us, provides some efficiencies that we would like to see, provides us a way to secure outsourced maintenance on vehicles that sometimes is beyond our bandwidth sometimes to provide, or some of the larger vehicles, for example. It provides us to access to those maintenance shops that are available. So we've been working with Enterprise Fleet Management. That's what the EFM is on the agenda there. Talk to them about what they could provide. They've provided us some initial looks at our current fleet. They currently work with other cities and communities across the state of Georgia, some that are in our area, like Oakwood, Jackson County, Hartwell, some others outside of our area, but Livonia, Chat Hills, Morgan County, one up the road, Dahlonega, Canton, Jonesboro, and Milledgeville. So they have been in this market for a while. They have looked at not only our public safety fleet, but also our public works fleet, some of the standard vehicles that we purchase on a regular basis, like the F-150s. Those are pretty common. They're also, if you kind of manage the value properly, you can get a good return off of the resale of those. I think that's probably a lot of what we've been missing in the past is when is the right time to. And nothing against it. I think personally, we might have taken an approach where we drove a vehicle till the wheels fell off. That worked in some cases. But, reclaiming some of the value that was in that old vehicle may make more sense for us. We do sell some of our older vehicles on Gov Deals. We just don't get a significant return. We're in a situation where we're still in discussions with them. They are on the statewide purchasing program with Sourcewell, and they have been working with us again on looking at our current fleet, and also the public safety fleet, as I mentioned. One other thing I will say is in terms of some of our older vehicles that we currently have in our fleet, there have been some significant improvements in safety features on vehicles in the last 5 years, backup cameras, blind spot monitoring, collision warning systems. And I think those are all features that really help us from a risk assessment standpoint and liability. So it's kind of all the reason we're thinking about this in addition to what we do have a large number of vehicles that are going to have to come off the road, replaced. So tackling that is kind of what precipitated the discussion with Enterprise. So that's kind of the update of where we're at. Paul and Cindy have been kind of working on it with me. I don't know if I've left anything out, but they can add to it, and I'm happy to take some questions.
All right, any questions of Mr. Basesh? Yes, Gary.
So could you define the scope of the program? Are you talking about purchasing and leasing through them, or is it just they're providing data and consultation and repairs for us?
It is a lease program, but
Okay.
It is something that we kind of maintain control of the process. They are titling the vehicles in their name, and they are kind of helping us monitor the maintenance program to make sure we're staying current with
Right.
the service intervals. Frank has looked at a couple of the agreements. If I've left anything out, remind me, Frank. And then we do have a representative from Enterprise here if there are some specific.
Okay, and just one last question for Mr. Hartley. Is there any liability concern differences that we're running a private company's vehicles versus our own? Any concerns there?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? So Troy, what are the next steps on this? You've given us an update. Is there some action that we will need to take?
Yeah,
at some point?
we'll have the agreements on an agenda for you to review and approve. We've got to kind of get a strategy together for which vehicles would be appropriate. We're starting the budget process now, so it helps us inform that decision-making with this.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else before we move on? You got any more, Mr. Radford?
I would like to give Avery an opportunity just to sort of summarize the last month, which was a very, very busy month. And you looked at behind the plaza when you got here, you noticed that the tent is up, and you're transitioning from the summer and fall activities to the winter activities with the ice rink install coming soon, right after Sugar Rush. But, Avery, give us an update.
Wow, that was really fun. So last week and over the weekend, we had several successful events. We had a theater rental, the tea party took place in the plaza, and then the Everclear concert was on Saturday. This week, we have the Murder Mystery Dinner, which has been sold out. It is this Thursday, and the fabulous Equinox Orchestra presents Beatles to Bourbon Street on Friday. There is a bowl rental on Saturday. Then we're getting into Sugar Rush details. I'm going to follow with an email to everyone with all of the details on that. Not a whole lot has changed from years past, but we do have an increase in the number of vendors that will be participating, parking details, all of that is on our website. You are welcome to go and view it. It will probably be the fastest and most convenient way. But if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. Then after that is Trick or Treat on West Broad Street. We'll be showing Ghostbusters in the Bowl following that event. It's the 1984 Ghostbusters. Rocky Horror has sold out its evening show, so we've added a second show, so there's now a show at 6 and 10 for that date, which is the 25th. Monsters and Mimosas 5K will happen on the 26th at 8 a.m. on the Greenway, and then the month concludes with the Children's Theater's performance of Beetlejuice Jr. After that, looking into November, we're coming up on Nutcracker season. We have our final Eagle Theater concert, which is John Barry's Christmas tour. Broad Street Concert Band will be doing their annual Toys for Tots, and Joe Gransden will come and do his Home for the Holidays show. That's all I have. Busy.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. All right, that's the end of our agenda for tonight, but as I mentioned, we do have a need to have a legal discussion in executive session. If I could get a motion for that, I would appreciate it.
Mayor, I make a motion to go to an executive session for legal matters.
I have a motion from Mr. Hicks. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Page. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And we will have no action coming back out, but we will come back out. All right, we are back from executive session. We discussed one legal matter, but we have no action to take outside of executive session. So I'll ask if there is a motion to adjourn our October work session. I have a motion from Mr. Hicks. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Avery. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, we are adjourned until next Monday night.